真欢喜，大家会当来遮参观展览，甲听这个真特别的演讲。我真正无要占伤侪时间，小等恁来听因两个家庭的事实，来讲因爸爸的故事的历史希望恁会当有一个感动，还是讲会当有问题，下面互相讨论。多谢。
Am I supposed to start?
Welcome everybody who come here during Wednesday afternoon to listen to their life stories. In a bit, we'll be listening to the very, very powerful story of their father, and also to share with us some of the very important parts of early Taiwanese American history. Thank you.
Okay. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for inviting us today to share our story. My name is Peter Tsai, and I'm joined today by my wife Joyce Tsai, right here in the front row, and then my
Microphone that didn't work.
oh,
Yeah, maybe raise up.
No microphone.
Oh, no microphone.
yeah, I think this is to the this to the recording. So okay, and then I have my oldest daughter, Melissa O'Brien Tsai, or Melissa Tsai O'Brien, and her husband, Dr. Andrew O'Brien, and then my youngest daughter, Whitney Tsai, who lives here in California, and then my sister, Beelan, Dr. Beelan Tsai, who is from Duluth, Minnesota, and my cousin, Beelan Chong, who's from Seattle, Washington. So, on behalf of all of us and the Reverend Tsai's children and grandchildren, we would like to express our deepest gratitude to Dr. Franklin Chang, and also to the Taiwanese American Historical Society, and also to David Chow for making this all possible. So thank you all for that. And my family and I are really profoundly moved by and honored by your recognition of Reverend Tsai, his life. And so we'd like to just share some of our the history with you and some of his story. So this morning we're going to provide a brief biography of my father, since the exhibition provides a much fuller understanding of his life and many contributions. And then we'll talk a little bit about the 4 values that guided his life and that he and my mother, Rio Morikawa Tsai, passed down to their children and grandchildren. So, Aichi Tsai was born November of 1913 in Tainan Province, the 8th of 10 children, of whom 9 survived to adulthood. After graduating from Presbyterian High School in Tainan, he moved to Kyoto and graduated from Doshisha High School in 1932, the Preparatory College in 1935, and the Theological School in 1938. So this is a slide of my father at age 16.
It's not showing.
Oh, maybe we lost the feed. Oh, I think we lost the feed somehow. Is the
It's already hooked in.
Sometimes do you have function?
Over there.
Oh.
Is there a second?
maybe? Okay. Is it going to stay? Okay. So this is a photo of my father at age 16. Still there? Okay. He continued his education in the United States, earning a Master's of Arts in 1940 and a Bachelor of Divinity in 1941 at the Divinity School of the University of Chicago. And then he served as pastor of the Chicago Church of Christ, a Japanese church in downtown Chicago, where he was ordained in November of 1942. In early 1942, my father met my mother, Ryo Morikawa, a Japanese-American woman whose family was forced to leave their home in San Diego by order of the U.S. government after the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. The Morikawa family settled in Chicago and was invited to attend services at my father's church. My parents married in December of 1942, and their first child, Biwa, was born in 1944 in Chicago, Illinois. For the next 2 years, my father worked for the U.S. Navy and the U.S. War Department in the MAP Division and later the Strategic Bombing Survey, assisting the U.S. government in the war effort. After the war, he accepted a position with UNRWA, the United Nations Relief and Rehabilitation Administration, in May of 1946. He was assigned to the Shanghai office and spent several months in Taiwan as a reports officer. So following his UNRWA assignment, he returned to the U.S. and was called to the Seattle Japanese Congregational Church in 1948. In Seattle, the Tsai family added 3 more children, Beelin, my youngest sister Bisun, and myself, Peter.
Here's Peter. And this is me.
Right. So my father served the Seattle church for over 30 years, and after his retirement, he and my mother enjoyed watching their children marry and start their own families, traveling, spending a lot of time on Puget Sound, and enjoying their siblings, nieces, and nephews. My father passed away in August of 1998. So now we're going to share 4 of Aichi Sai's strongest values. He lived these values, and even as young children, we saw him adhere and conduct himself according to them. My father started writing My Life Begins in 1992, and also a letter to a relative in 1983. During our remarks, we will share some excerpts from his writing so you can hear his voice. We will also have letters from another individuals with whom he worked. We will read portions of these letters as well.
Yeah, so it's when you're gonna just hold the mic closer.
Okay. Okay. So now my daughter will continue the presentation.
Hi, my name is Whitney. I'm the youngest grandchild of Reverend Aichi Sai. Again, I would like to thank the Taiwanese American Historical Center for inviting us here today. I will be sharing my grandpa's values on Christian faith, family, and education before my Auntie Beelin finishes and discusses his service. So my grandpa's father's conversion to Christianity at age 18 resulted in his being rejected by his Tainan province village neighbors and him fleeing to Tainan City. There, he studied medicine with Dr. James Maxwell, the first Presbyterian missionary doctor in Tainan. Grandpa's parents were devout Christians, serving their community with much-needed medical care and food for the needy. They raised their children in the Christian faith. My grandpa wrote, "Father was a very devout Christian, and every Sunday he took his entire family to church, where we spent the whole day." He also wrote, "During that time, God had given 10 children to my parents. My parents wanted one of the daughters and one of the sons to become ministers as gifts to God. The eldest daughter was married to a minister, and my grandfather eventually became a minister. My father was always busy, but he took time to care for his children. My mother was rather quiet and always helped her husband and took good care of her children. My mother helped the needy people and distributed the fruits from our garden to the people. She was a very religious person, and early in the morning she prayed for our safety, and before we went to bed, she prayed for God's grace. That attitude gave us the deep impression that we should be grateful to God. This is a newspaper article about my grandpa's ordination, a Formosan minister in a Japanese congregation. So in 1948, he was called as a minister of the Seattle Japanese Congregational Church, where he served faithfully for 31 years. This is a photo of Grandpa speaking to a group of ministers in Seattle. In 1969, he helped establish the Seattle Formosan Christian Church. In 1983, he wrote, "Presently in Seattle, there are over 300 Taiwanese. There is a Taiwanese church where my nephew is pastor." Grandpa's love for his immediate and extended family was incredibly strong. This is a photo of Grandpa, Grandma, their 4 children, and their spouses, and their 7 grandchildren. So we have me right there in the middle, my dad, my Auntie Beelin, and then my mom and my sister are also in there. Yeah, there's my sister, Melissa. She's here. Yeah. So Grandpa's deep devotion to us was evident in his interest in our lives, his concern that we were eating enough or warm enough or safe enough, and the way he modeled for and instilled in us how family cares for and treats one another. He shared with us the things he enjoyed most outside of his ministry and his community: his great cooking, clam digging, hunting for wild mushrooms, playing bridge, spending time on Puget Sound. And we all grew to love these activities and still do. Grandpa was the first of his siblings to come to the U.S. Once he was settled with his family in Seattle, he sponsored many of his nieces and nephews, making it possible for them to come to the U.S. to study. He also sponsored some of his own siblings and helped them settle in this country. One of our Psy relatives said that Grandpa was the Moses of the Psy family. Starting in the 1950s, Grandpa helped many students, including his nieces and nephews from Formosa, settle in Seattle and other parts of the U.S. Many of them settled in the U.S. and started their own families. Grandpa also sponsored some of his siblings to come to the U.S. He wrote, "In early 1950s, students from Taiwan were coming to the U.S. to study. My niece and her husband came to study in 1949. Another nephew also studied, graduating from Seattle Pacific College. At that time, there were about 10 students from Taiwan, and my home was a meeting place, their home away from home. But in the 1960s and 1970s, there were many students from Taiwan. Many married and established households of their own. Gradually, there were so many that it was not possible to know them all." Education was highly valued by my grandpa's parents, and this love of learning was connected to their Christian faith and service to God. Grandpa wrote, "My father educated 10 children. The people of the village told my parents it was foolish to spend so much money to educate children. But my father sent his children to higher education to universities in Japan and China. All his boys graduated from the university, and all his girls graduated from high school or college. He wanted his children to be able to work for God and the community, so he sent his children to school. His children served society and the church. We all followed our parents' faith." Not only were Grandpa and all of his siblings educated, but nearly all of his siblings, 38 children, completed higher education and married college graduates. The educational accomplishments continued among the next generation of extended Psy family, including my first and third cousins, my sister, and me. Here's a newspaper article about my dad graduating from high school in the top 10. His 3 older sisters also graduated in the top 10. Now my Auntie Beelin will complete this presentation.
So I'm going to continue with the 4 principles that guided our father's life. And so Whitney talked about family and faith and education. And the 4th one is service. So service to his church that he led for 31 years, service to his community, to his native country, Formosa or Taiwan, and then also his adopted country, the United States. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. So Aichisai sailed from Japan in 1938, and this was prompted by the view that Asia was soon to be at war. And so he left Japan to sail to the United States and study at the University of Chicago. He always planned to go back to Formosa, and he dreamed of starting a university or a college with a Christian mission. And he wanted Taiwanese young people to have educational opportunities on the island of Formosa, and he also wanted to spread the Christian faith. In 1944, he started working for the U.S. government, either the Navy or the War Department. He was never part of the military in terms of being a soldier, but he was a civilian translator or intelligence person during those years. So during World War II, individuals who were fluent in Formosan and Japanese and English, and also familiar with Formosa and Japan, were in need to help support the U.S. War effort. And my dad was a little hesitant to do that. He had finished his studies as a minister. He had a congregation, a small congregation in Chicago. But his mentors and professors convinced him that he should accept the government's translator job. That was the first one offered to him. Because of his unique skills, both language and familiarity with Formosa and Japan, and now this is a quote that he wrote, that his knowledge could contribute to the successful conclusion of the war and to make the occupation of Taiwan go smoothly with little loss of life and property. So you see his commitment to try to help his family and friends and the citizens of Formosa at the time. So in 1944, he did join the U.S. Naval Military Government and Administration Office at Columbia University, and his supervisor was Lieutenant George H. Kerr. And so you see Lieutenant Kerr here, and our dad, and our older sister, Biwa. And this was a photo taken in either late 1945 or early 1946 in Washington, D.C. I want to read an excerpt of a letter that Lieutenant Kerr wrote about my dad. So here's a quote. He wrote this in May of 1944. In addition to having unique language abilities for the work which we are undertaking at the direction of the Chief of Naval Operations, Mr. Tsai represents a source of information to us which we can find nowhere else in the United States of America. We have every reason to believe that Mr. Tsai's service to us in his present capacity represents the highest possible contribution that he can make to the war effort of the United States. Then he also worked, as his second assignment, he worked with Lieutenant James T. Watkins, the fourth, and his assignment was in the translation unit. So this is a photo of Lieutenant Watkins and our dad, and this was in Shanghai. And my dad was in Shanghai at the time because he worked for the United Nations. So this is what Lieutenant Watkins wrote in December of 1944. Everyone whom I have known to be associated with Mr. Tsai has held him in the highest esteem for his honesty, uprightness, reliability, gentlemanly qualities, and Christian kindliness. They have uniformly uttered the utmost confidence in his loyalties to the cause of the United Nations and his democratic political views. In this esteem and confidence, my colleagues and I wholeheartedly concur. So so after the war, my dad served in two capacities. One was with the War Department's U.S. Strategic Bombing Survey. And the purpose of that team was to go to Japan and to assess the damage due to the atomic bombs in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and also the fire bombing in Tokyo and Shikoku. So he was there the latter part of 1945. And then when he returned, he accepted a position with the United Nations Relief and Rehabilitation Administration, or UNRWA, it's called. And he accepted that position. You know, I can't remember him ever saying this, but I'm sure he accepted it because his assignment was to go to Taiwan and to assess how the United Nations relief goods were being distributed in Taiwan, and also to report on the status of agriculture, manufacturing, and most importantly, the status of the people of Taiwan. So this is a picture with Alan Shackleton from New Zealand. Excuse me. This is my father and Alan Shackleton in Haito. Excuse me.
Where is Haito?
Haito is in the south. Is it in the south of Taiwan?
Oh, Taiwan?
Yes. Is that correct? No. Or yes, we don't know.
我哋變當嚟講，新理想，
Haito.
變當。
Oh, yeah.
And so this is a photo. This is a photo also of the UNRWA group, and this is our father, and Alan Shackleton is in the middle, in the back row. This picture and the one before were sent to me by Alan Shackleton's son, Colin Shackleton. So I guess the other thing I wanted to say about this slide was that I mentioned earlier that our father intended to return to Taiwan, but after his experiences and the events in Taiwan in February and March of 1947, he just didn't feel he could bring his wife and young child and return. So no, I think I have some. And many of you are familiar with the books of George Kerr and Alan Shackleton and many others who have profoundly shared their experiences about this period. So I hope you've enjoyed learning about our father and our grandfather. And it's been a real honor for us to really learn about him, because we had a lot of documents and a lot of photos, but you gave us an opportunity to to look at them and to learn more about his life. So we are very grateful for that. Our dad was an extraordinary man with a very generous and loving heart. He kept his faith, his family, education, and service at the core of his life, and by doing that, he touched many lives. And so I know that there'll be a question and answer period later, and I hope you enjoyed the exhibit.
真多谢美玲，甲咱介绍伊的爸爸。伊伫 University of Minnesota 是化学教授，做过系主任、副校长，服务41档。到即个礼拜日，伊会当退休啊！所以咱看伊。 讲到然后，迄落大概41档的教学吼，对咯。第上迄边迄个温尼孙仔是即马伫 Occidental University 伫遐动物系做研究。即个伊爸爸 Peter 是伫西雅图一个基金会做负责人吼。 多谢因的介绍。Waiting for his translation.
用这个，用这个。哦，对我讲的资料真多，我即摆试看卖，再甲迄重点翻译一下。即摆迄 presentation 的主角就是迄阮蔡爱智牧师哦。伊是以前是伫台湾出世，伫台南出世。1913年11月伫台南出世。1938年时阵就是来到阮美国来遮读书。 就去Chicago 遐深海边内底伫遐深造。就1942年时阵摕到牧师的资格。伫同年甲一个廖莫里卡瓦的查某囡仔结婚。1944年到1946年的时阵，伊是伫美国海军。 伫遐做代志，因为伊有一寡的迄才能吼，较当初迄美国军队真爱的，所以伊伫内底做研究，阁有迄个地图的迄个分析，阁有翻译的工课。伊当初会晓的代志就是伊真够讲日本话甲台湾话，阁对台湾真甲日本有非常了解。 所以迄当阵就互美国政府重用，当初诶美国是美国海军，也阁有迄战争部，就是即摆国防部，伫遐就甲伊重用。以后1946年时阵，伊去台湾参加迄 UNRRA， 就是联合国善后救济总署诶活动，迄工作。 都是战后台湾都是战后百废待举UNRRA 的工课都是甲因遐settle一个互因互以后的迄个以后盟军代表会使来接受安尼。1944年到1953年时阵，伊有4个囡仔出世，3个查某囝甲一个儿子。 即马到即马已经有7个孙仔。1948年时阵，伊伫西雅图做牧师。伫1969年时阵，伊成立了就西雅图的台湾基督教会。伊一生呢有4个价值观，伊真重视，就是Christian faith， 就是基督教的精神。 还有 family 就是家庭，还有 education 就是教育，还有 service 就是服务。这系列都是伊甲因囝拢伫甲这系列价值观，都希望讲因有照这系列方向去做人。咱蔡牧师伊当初真爱甲人帮助，都迄当阵伊写倒时阵，伊就想讲要提供一个社区，会使互真侪台湾人来到遮留学时阵会当伫遐安定下来，都这是当初伊目标之一。因为迄蔡牧师因的妈妈嘛是真好的人，所以伊有对着因影响真大。另外就是我欢迎到遮。你敢会使？
会使，真好。Now it's your turn.
Okay, I put this on my sweater.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Hello, my name is Bilan Chung. I'm the oldest daughter of Kei Beng Chung. My father was, he had a very short life. He was born in 1912 and he passed away in 1958. He was born in Miaoli, Formosa, on April 11th, 1932. He was I can't read with those glasses, sorry. Kei Beng was the 5th child and first son of Chong Tien Ki and Un Se Moi. There were 6 daughters and 4 sons in the Chong family. This is a photo of the Tam Sui Presbyterian Church. In 1917, the family moved to Tam Sui. His father became the pastor of the Tam Sui Presbyterian Church and served until 1935. The church was founded by Dr. George Mackay. He was a Canadian physician, I think. This is a photo of my father's parents. I just wanted to show this is Uncle Kego, number four uncle, when he's a little boy, and then when he's older. And then the next slide, this is my father here before he went to Japan, and this is his oldest sister, Tsusim, I think, with her family. My grandparents, my first auntie, her husband, well, anyway, many relatives there. Early education. Let's see. At age 15, Kei Beng left Formosa for Kyoto, Japan. He attended Doshisha Academy, a preparatory school attached to Doshisha University. Doshisha University is a Christian educational institution founded by Nijima Jo in 1920. And there were many Christian Formosan boys that attended this school in the 1930s. And this is his diploma from Doshisha Academy. I'm not sure where he is there, but okay, Kei Beng graduated from Doshisha Academy on March 22nd, 1931. I think that's in Japanese time, it's Showa Rokunen, maybe? And he decided to study in the US. And this is a picture, the one before, of Formosan students traveled under a Japanese passport because Formosa was, let's see, Formosa was ceded to Japan in 1895, I think.
Yes.
And the Japanese pronunciation of Chongqebang is Kaimer Sho.
Sorry，那个汉字读成什么？大日本帝国外国后面的两个字是什么
What does that mean?
？Yes，外国什么那两个字？
Did I do a bad thing?
No. We just
Passport.
want to ask
wanna know
what
the
is the
concept.
meaning of that.
What?
Passport。
Oh, you mean why I did it?
No. You want to know what is the
Oh, the
means.
Oh, I don't know.
大日本帝国
最后是
外什么护照？
外国
外国护照。
不装不是下这个。
It's okay.
Oh, okay. Okay.
那个是刻印的东西，很难懂。
Okay. Next one. Yeah. So let's see. So he sailed. Keibang sailed from Yokohama, Japan, March 1st, 1932, on the Hikawa Maru. He was 19 years old when he arrived in Seattle, Washington, March 22nd, 1932. This boat actually it took a lot of people from Japan to Seattle. It first went to Vancouver, and then one day later it arrived in Seattle. Okay, so this was kind of interesting. This was the list or manifest for alien passengers on the Hikawa Maru, March 22nd, 1932. So my father, Kaimer Sho, you can't read it, but it's right there. And they have all of these questions, but I thought the questions were quite interesting. So first, occupation, student. And they want to know, passage paid by, father. Whether in possession of $50, yes. Name and address of friend or relative. Registrar, Whitman College, Walla Walla, Washington. Anarchist, no. Polygamist, no. Length of time in U.S., 4 years. Okay. This is when he went to Whitman College, and I will tell you that there are very few Asians that go to Whitman College. Maybe he was the only one, or maybe there was another one, I don't know. And the first 2 years he was he was an independent, and he played intramural tennis and ping pong, and he was very, very good at it. And then next one, I think. And this last 2 years, he played on the varsity tennis team, and I think he won the singles Northwest Conference Singles Championship in 1937. This is his Whitman College. All right. Next one. And then, let's see. He graduated, I forgot. He graduated in 1938 with an A.B. in chemistry. And then after that, he went to University of Chicago. He completed a year and a half in chemistry. And I heard this story that my father, my Uncle Aichi, would see this man that he thought looked familiar, but he couldn't quite place him. And this person, who happened to be my father, always had his head down and he looked depressed. And so finally Uncle Aichi one day said, "Are you Keibang?" And he said, "Yes, I'm Keibang." And so I think, and so they started rooming together, and I think Uncle Aichi got my father into the dormitory at Chicago Theological Seminary. And also, I think Uncle Aichi was a manager of a food co-op or something, and he got my father in there too. And then there were some Japanese divinity students and my father and Uncle Aichi, and they all cooked together and had fun. And then I think that first summer they were waiters in a country club in St. Louis, Missouri. I think that's the waiter outfit. And when he was studying at Purdue University, he had a foster family, and it was Mr. and Mrs. Cole. I think the Mr. Cole was a conductor on a railroad. So if it weren't for Uncle Aichi, I wouldn't be here today. It was Uncle Aichi who introduced my father to my mother, who is the Sai's mother. Yeah. So that's them. They were married in Chicago, December 6, 1944. Yep. Let's see. After 1 year as a graduate student at Purdue University, Kabeng was inducted as a private in the U.S. Army on December 4th, 1942. Although he was a foreign graduate student, he was nonetheless drafted because of the war. His unique background and fluency in the Japanese language were recognized as valuable assets in the war with Japan. He was later promoted to sergeant, which was his highest rank as an enlisted man. After basic training in Alabama, he was assigned as an interpreter in prisoner of war processing at Fort Custer, Michigan. He was ordered to New Caledonia to take charge of an interpreter-translator unit in the prisoner of war administration. He served in Noumea, New Caledonia from October 43 until November 44. While serving in New Caledonia, he became a naturalized U.S. citizen on April 1, 1944. The enactment of the Magnuson Act allowed ethnic Chinese residing in the U.S. to become naturalized citizens, reversing the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882, which was a law prohibiting Chinese from immigrating to the U.S. The document on the right was notification that his naturalization request was approved. Khmer Shou became Kabeng Chong, and this is a romanization of the Amoy pronunciation of his name. Actually, in George Kerr's book, he says, to establish a clear Formosan identity, many Formosans began to employ a romanized form of the Amoy dialect when transliterating names from the Chinese characters. Okay. November 1944, Kabeng was selected for the language school at Fort Snelling, Minnesota, and assigned to military intelligence. December 1945, he was elected for officer candidate school and commissioned as second lieutenant. April 1946, he was sent to serve at General MacArthur's headquarters in occupied Japan. Okay, this is post-war occupied Japan. July 1946, while stationed in Tokyo, Japan, Kabeng was ordered to arrest a Japanese war criminal living in Takao, Kaohsiung, and return him to Tokyo for prosecution. This was the opportunity he had been waiting for nearly 15 years to be able to see his family. A U.S. consulate official, George Kerr, took him to see his family. So this is Tsusim, the oldest auntie, my father, and Tsusim's husband. And this one says, the caption is, just before we took off for Formosa, sea rations in my arm. Okay. Let's see here. Oh, and I should have said on the slide before, for 2 nights he and his family talked and shared their struggles during the war. There was laughter and joy. The trip lasted 64 hours. This was the last time he saw his family in Formosa. Okay. K-Bang was assigned to Counterintelligence Corps, CIC, of the U.S. Army in Tokyo. He received a commendation for a special project for CIC from June to November 1950. An excerpt from the commendation letter describes some of his work. Demonstrating unusual ingenuity and initiative, Lieutenant Chong secured and evaluated vital information which led to the eventual apprehension of a large North Korean espionage ring in Japan. Displaying a thorough knowledge of investigative techniques and superior linguistic ability, he expertly conducted and coordinated a large informant network which collected valuable information and skillfully directed the translation, collation, and preparation of reports which contributed materially to the success of the Corps' mission in support of the United Nations Korean campaign. Okay. K-Bang left military service after the end of the Korean War in 1953. He and his family returned to the U.S. for 6 months, where he underwent intensive debriefing in Washington, D.C. K-Bang and family returned to Tokyo in 1954. He became export manager for Kawaguchi Rubber Company. Later, he began his own export business, plastic products business company. In 1957, the youngest daughter, Mei-lan, was born. At age 46, our father became ill for 6 months and was cared for at home by his wife and family. He was also attended by his physician, Dr. Lin Tomoku, whom he had known since his Doshisha Academy days. Father passed away at home March 19, 1958. Burial in Formosa. Keion, second son, brought K-Bang's ashes to Formosa from Japan. In the undated photo to the right, K-Bang's mother is in the center with 6 of her children. K-Bang is buried in the Chong family cemetery in Doshen. Yeah. Epilogue. K-Bang Chong was survived by his wife Anna, age 41, Bilan, that's me, 12, Chulan, age 10, and Mei-lan, 6 months. Anna Chong continued K-Bang's business, plastic products company. The family remained in Tokyo for 5 years, then relocated to Seattle, Washington in 1963, where all live now except for our mother Anna, who passed away May 15, 1994. In George Kerr's book, Formosa Betrayed, published in 1965, he writes, "One characteristic which sets the Formosans apart from the mainland Chinese is a deeply emotional attachment to the island. Although our father left Formosa at age 15 and was not able to return more than 15 years later, he felt a strong attachment to the country of his birth. Both K-Bang Chong and Aichi Sai were pioneers in, I don't know how to do this, sorry. Both K-Bang Chong and Aichi Sai were pioneers in pursuing their educational goals in the U.S. in the 1930s. According to George Kerr, in 1950, there were about 50 Formosans studying in the United States. By 1960, there were at least 554, and the number grows." This is page 466 of Formosa Betrayed. Our father, K-Bang Chong, came from a deeply Christian family in Formosa. His adventurous spirit brought him to the United States to pursue studies in chemistry. Due to the circumstances of the times, he was drafted into the U.S. Army, and with his valuable language and communication skills was able to contribute to the war effort. Our father was a warm-hearted person who loved life. Perhaps it was that special Formosan character that radiated from him and inspired joy. My sisters and I, Chulan and Mei-lan, also known as Binko, we compiled this presentation. Because his life was cut short early, we wanted to share our father's story. Thank you very much for the opportunity you have given us. Sorry.
真多谢美兰甲咱介绍，伊是1945年，因爸爸伫明尼苏达读硕士的时，伊伫遐生啦。所以伊虽然有一站搬去日本，但是伊主要是讲英语。伊少年的时呢，是读美术的。伫西雅图甲 San Francisco 读美术，画图画20档，讲趁无食啦。尾去一间迄个英语的先修班啦，就是讲咱留学生来美国英语袂晓的时，先去读英语，伊伫遐工作，甲即阵，伊讲。那古早时，因爸爸，甲伊的 uncle 爱子，会当有即个英语的先修班的时呢，一定是较紧会当含美国社会，还是美国学校，会当安尼学习较济啦，这是伊私下甲我讲的安尼啦，即马请 Ken 来翻译。
我想介绍就是讲这是钟启明，伊甲拄我介绍迄蔡牧师共款拢是台湾去美国留下的迄先驱啊。就听这 George Kerr 伫书内底有讲过，讲因是1930年迄当阵真少台湾人去美国，因是迄个少数一群安尼。我开始介绍1912年的时阵伫苗栗出世，伊是5个囡仔内底第一个查某囡仔。伫15岁时阵，伊就离开台湾去日本的京都，就伫同志社大学的日本一个大学，的附设 Academy 遐读书。1932年时阵，伊来到美国，因为迄当阵日本因发音较无共，所以伊的名就翻译过 Keimer Show。1932年时阵，坐船来到西雅图，伊当阵是要去一个 Whitman College。遐读书，伫哇啦 Washington 遐读书，美国迄段就顶头就会问讲，伊是毋是一个无政府主义者？伊讲毋是，是毋是一个一夫多妻制者？伊讲嘛毋是，所以甲美国真合。顺续伊就去大学内底去读书的时阵实在是文武双全啦，伊嘛伫毋是干读书尔，嘛是去 tennis 甲迄乒乓球的球社。伊真够，因为伊拍伫迄 varsity 就是美国迄上运动内底伊算是才能最强的才是 varsity 内底比赛校队内底比赛，伊个摕到冠军。1937年时阵摕到冠军。1938年时阵，伊摕到伊的学士学位，化学学士学位。1939年到1940年时阵，伊去芝加哥大学继续深造化学。就迄当阵伊熟悉拄我阮讲迄蔡牧师。1941年时阵，伊转学到 Purdue， 搁甲一个蔡牧师介绍的一个查某囡仔安娜莫里卡瓦结婚。1944年的时候结婚。毋过伊1942年时阵开始有伫迄美国军队内底做工课，就甲迄拄仔迄蔡牧师共款，拢是因为因对日本话甲台湾话真够讲，嘛了解台湾甲日本，所以伊嘛是伫遐做翻译。毋过伫1946年的时阵，伊是伫因为伊被押解一战犯。从台湾押回去日本15年之后，第一次看到他15年没见面的家人，这嘛是他最后一次看到他的家人。 在台湾看到他家人。1950年的时候，他在那个CIC 里面工作 ，Counterintelligence Corps 啊，伊做到今后，伊迄当中有一个奖状，就是讲伊真成功抓到迄个北韩伫日本底下有一个间谍集团啊。1953年时阵，1953年时阵他就退伍，然后离开军队，在46岁的时候，因为生病6个月去世。那去世的时间是3月19号，1958年，最后是在台湾的头城埋葬。啊，他的小孩有他太太是 Anna， 小孩有碧兰、朱兰跟美兰，然后美兰的别名是冰孔。然后就到这样为止，谢谢。
多谢，肯定欢迎。